Hey guys, welcome back to another relaxing deep dive into history's slowest roller coaster. If you're getting cozy in bed, good. If you're letting this play while you fold laundry, also good. Tonight, we're talking about pyramids. You know those giant stone triangles that are basically history's version of saying, we had too much money, too little engineering sense, and absolutely zero workplace safety protocols. So take a deep breath, dim the lights, and let's float back about 4,600 years to a time when rich men got buried in huge structures because subtlety wasn't invented yet. The early pyramid era. Nobody knows what they're doing. Our story begins in ancient Egypt, where pharaohs were called. They believed they were literal gods on earth, which, of course, justified making entire cities of workers build extravagant tombs just so they could flex in the afterlife. Now, you'd think the Egyptians always knew how to make perfect pyramids. But no, there was a learning curve, and that learning curve involved architectural disasters. Let's start with the Step Pyramid of Djoser. This guy ruled around 2667 BCE, and he was like, I want something tall, really tall, something that will tell the world I'm a big deal. So his architect, the famous Imhotep, stacked a bunch of giant stone rectangles, like a child making a staircase out of giant Lego bricks. It worked. Sort of. It didn't collapse, which was already better than, well, most future royal projects on this list. But once Djoser died and got buried inside, everyone looked at this stepped, blocky structure and went, cute! But what if we smooth the sides so it looks more like a perfect Dorito? And thus began the Great Pyramid Experiment, where pharaohs basically played Minecraft in survival mode, except mistakes involved thousands of dead laborers and the loss of entire architectural reputations. Sneferu, the guy who wanted bigger, always bigger. Enter Sneferu, a pharaoh who really wanted to be famous in the pyramid community, which, by the way, was a niche but very competitive crowd. Sneferu built 3 pyramids because apparently one was not enough. One, the Meidum pyramid. This was his first attempt at a smooth-sided pyramid. And, well, it collapsed. Not immediately. It waited a while. Long enough to be awkward. Imagine being an architect back then. Yeah, boss, it's totally stable, nothing to worry about. Loud crashing noises. Some modern historians think it partially fell during construction. Others think it collapsed centuries later out of sheer embarrassment. Either way, it's not the pyramid Sneferu brags about in the afterlife. Number 2, the bent pyramid. After the Meidum fiasco, Sneferu tried again at a place called Dashur. They started building a much taller pyramid, steeper sides, more ambitious, really going all in. And halfway up the structure, the builders went, this looks dangerously unstable. The angle suddenly changes, like a diet that gave up halfway through. So instead of collapsing, the pyramid just gently gives up. It's like history's biggest shrug. They called it the bent pyramid, which feels a little rude, but accurate. Number 3, the red pyramid. Finally, Sneferu gets it right. Straight sides, solid engineering, no major collapsing events. Still, imagine needing 3 pyramids just to figure out the basic geometry. Sneferu basically speed-ran architectural trial and error with real human lives on the line. Why build pyramids anyway? Let's drift into a soft explanation while trying not to overthink the horror of ancient labor systems. Egyptians believed that if a pharaoh wasn't buried properly, his soul would get lost. And nobody wants to be a confused ghost haunting some farmhouse on the outskirts of Memphis, the Egyptian one, not Tennessee. So they built pyramids to protect royal bodies, preserve their treasure, and help them ascend to the heavens like divine VIPs. The pyramid shapes symbolize the rays of the sun, which sounds poetic, until you look at the workforce and realize it was mostly forced labor. Seasonal farmers who got taxed in sweat instead of grain, and probably a lot of complaining in languages we'll never translate. But hey, miracles require sacrifices, right? Especially other people's sacrifices. The Great Pyramid, maximum flex. Now we float gently into the reign of Khufu, Sneferu's son. He inherits the throne, and brace yourself, he is not the nice guy historians once thought he might be. Khufu decides he will build the biggest pyramid ever. Of course he does. The result? The Great Pyramid of Giza. Height originally 146 meters. Stones used? About 2.3 million. Workforce? Debatable, but definitely many human beings who wish they had literally any other job. And unlike his dad, Khufu gets it right the first time, which must have been annoying for the architects who spent years fixing Sneferu's pyramid mistakes. The Great Pyramid is so perfectly aligned to the cardinal directions that conspiracy theorists are still losing sleep about it thousands of years later. And inside, a series of chambers, including the so-called King's Chamber, which is just a fairly underwhelming stone room. No gold, no fancy decor, just stone. Because Khufu took the gold with him to the afterlife. Obviously. Spoiler, grave robbers took it instead. We love irony. Khufu's public relations, not great. Ancient historians, like the Greek writer Herodotus, accused Khufu of being a tyrant. We don't know how true that is, but the man did force people to spend decades building a giant tomb instead of living their lives. That's usually a red flag. There's also the small detail of Khufu shutting down the temples to redirect funds into pyramid construction. Even ancient priests were like, wow, this guy. Still, Khufu's legacy stands. Literally. His pyramid is the only one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world still standing, mainly because it's too heavy to knock down. Let's glide to Khafre, the middle child pyramid. Next up, Khafre, Khufu's son. You clearly wanted to keep up with the family brand, so he built a pyramid too. Slightly shorter than his dad's, but built on higher ground, which of course let him brag, "My pyramid looks bigger." We love pettiness in ancient architecture. Khafre also gets associated with the Great Sphinx, a giant lion-bodied human-faced statue that's just chilling in the sand like a bored guardian cat. We don't actually know if Khafre built it, but Egyptologists shrug and go, probably. So we'll roll with that. Menkaure, the guy who scaled it down. And then comes Menkaure, Khafre's son. You'd expect him to go even bigger, right? But no, Menkaure takes a different approach. I'm tired. Let's just make a cute little pyramid. It's much smaller. Some scholars think Egypt was running out of easily accessible stone. Others think economic issues hit the royal budget. But honestly, maybe Menkaure was just the least insecure man in the family. We stand a laid-back king. Giza was basically one giant royal cemetery. By now, the Giza Plateau is covered with 3 massive pyramids, queen pyramids, mastaba tombs, a giant sphinx looking confused. It's a full necropolis, an afterlife suburb, a place with way too much stone per square inch. Imagine living nearby like, "Hey neighbor, nice tomb you've got there. Mine's just a regular hole in the ground, but yours is stunning." After Giza, the decline of the pyramid craze. You'd think the pyramid hype would continue forever, but reality and economics said no. After the Old Kingdom collapsed, pharaohs started building smaller pyramids with cheaper materials. That did not age well. There's a whole era of pyramids that now look like pathetic piles of rubble. Archaeologists squint and go, yeah, I think that was supposed to be a pyramid? We think, maybe? The prestige was fading, and the structural integrity was definitely fading. Turns out, limestone casing stones are pretty tempting for future builders who want free material. So people just took them. Even the Great Pyramid was once shiny white, covered in smooth limestone that reflected sunlight like a giant glowing beacon. But those stones are mostly gone because medieval Cairo saw them and thought, free fancy building blocks. Don't mind if we do. Recycling existed in the past. They were just very bold about it.